for this first assignment, which is the reflection. So you can see there's a reflection in the ground of this shape I made. It looks kind of like a big number 1. Let's play the time lapse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just scroll over this slowly. So the first step is to create your cube, and notice this one's going half above and half below the horizon. And then you notice this little red line I drew there. So the reflected object is the same height as the original object, but the vanishing points are the same as the original object. So see where I just drew that little red line, the X, now I copied it down here, and now I'm just going to draw another square based on the top one, or it's not maybe quite a square. And then I'm going to do the shadow from the original object, this light blue one, so just as we normally do. And now I'm dividing up the side of the box into this number 1, and I'm just doing this by simple subdivision. So I divided up I found the quarters with the first X, found me the mid lines, and then I divided those up to find smaller lines. And you don't have to do this exact same profile, I'm just showing you how to do one. And used a couple of these key lines to just lop the top off and then push the bottom in a little bit. And now I'm kind of extruding it, so the front face remains on the same plane, but the bottom face moves in a little bit, and then we got that top angle chopped off. So that's basic construction. Now I got to mirror this, so I'm going to use the same process by just mirroring the subdivisions. And so you'll see down here I've subdivided in the exact same way, but upside down, and found all the connections, and now I'm drawing the extrusion of that same object upside down. And you'll notice that I can see underneath the overhang where it says number 1, I could see the underside of this. So that object that's reflected is going to be slightly different than the original one as far as what you can see. So now I've added some shading based on the lighting and some lighter shading on the reflection. And I'll get into this in a minute, but I made a little mistake, and I can't point to this here, but the little shadow, the crook of the 1, needs to be filled in. So that's kind of like the shadow of just the side, not the three-dimensional object. So let's see if we can, so I'm going to hit done there. So let me point out now what I'm talking about. So let's go up and make a new layer, and I'll do this in red just so you can see. Okay, so my mistake is right here. This is all correct if this didn't have any thickness, because I'm projecting. I'm going to just do this by hand here, make sure I'm on my layer. So you'll see that there's the light angle over there. I drop down to this. I just read somewhere they call this the drip line. It's the line directly below on the ground of this. So then I went across. So that was that point. But the problem is I didn't extend this across, because if I did this to the other side, so it's this point, and that's the point directly below, and if I went straight across for my direction and then my angle, and I'm just kind of approximating this, I'd be somewhere over here. And then this, let's go orange here. These two are connected, and so these two are connected, and you'll see I'm missing that little piece right there. So that's my mistake on this original one. So this should actually be filled in, and I wouldn't see that just because of the overhang here in orange. All right, so that's the first one, and just remember to think about, you could see this looks like the exact same object flipped upside down and attached to the bottom of this, but also going to the same vanishing points as the original object. So you can't just copy this and flip it over. In fact, here, let me show you what happens, because this is a common mistake. And you think, oh, okay, I could just copy this and put it upside down, but you can see it's not going to the same vanishing points anymore. It's going to some, it just looks wrong. But I see this happen all the time. People just think they can copy and mirror it, and it doesn't work that way. I'm going to show you this last little portion of this reflection. It's the shadow underneath the overhang here. So I've already drawn it in. Let me just kind of walk you through how I got there. So first step I did was I drew this yellow line right here, and that drops down to the original point on the floor, and you can extend this out from these edges, drop this down, and create this. That will give you the original kind of box that we subtracted the bottom half of this from. So the next step, I've just got this one flagpole. I'm just looking at that highlighted in yellow here. Let's turn that off for a second. And now I'm following the base across horizontally, not in perspective. And you can see that, let me zoom in, that this meets the wall at this point. So now we crawl up the wall. And I could go further because I'm not sure yet, but as soon as I draw my light angle, which is this line here, you'll see those two meet up at this point marked in red. So let's take those off. And once I have that point right here, that represents this point. This runs along horizontally, and so to my vanishing point anyway. So this should go to the same vanishing point. So I can just draw that line in automatically. And then if you remember the box flaps, this is very similar. From this point on, this point is over here, and this connects across there to this point. So now we've got a common point, and we've got to connect these two. And so that's that last line. And then I just filled in this with the shading. And let's back up again. And then to get the reflection of the shadow, what I did is I looked at just this distance here, and I copied it. So this is x, this is x. And then ran this back to the vanishing point because that's the same, the reflection goes to the same vanishing point. And I stopped when I got to the same length by just dropping a line straight down here to see where I end at. And then from this point, I know that this one connects up to there, so this one's got to connect over to that point. And so then this is the reflection of this shadow, and that was filled in, but a lot lighter because the reflection is already lightened up. So let's back out there. And that's how you get that shadow. So think about the box flaps. It's almost the exact same process as the box flaps.